It's now not only what Donald Rumsfeld knew, but what he knew we didn't know about Iraq and how it could have kept President George Bush and his administration from making a massive mistake in the Middle East. Now let's find out what's being said about the explosive article that broke over the weekend with the man who has his ear and chapeau always to the pulse of D.C. insiders. It is time to head inside the Beltway where mere mortals fear to tread, save for our guy. Welcome back, Newsmax chief political correspondent John Gizzi, looking resplendent as always, my friend. All right, John, let's get right to this. Politico over the weekend. What Donald Rumsfeld knew we didn't know about Iraq. Document revealing gaps of intelligence on WMD. Why didn't the Pentagon chief share it? That's the question. What are they saying around the Beltway these days about this article?
Well, typical Washington, D.C., Ed. Everyone wants to see a congressional investigation. I mean, again, it involves far more people than the former Secretary of Defense, notably General Richard Myers, the former Air Force Commandant, and the head of intelligence for the Air Force, Major General Glenn Schaefer, who did much of the background research for this memo. But in the end, it's the Secretary of Defense, Mr. Rumsfeld, who put at the top, and I quote, "This is big." And the obvious question is, why did his superiors not know about it? Why did not Secretary of State Powell know about it before he went to the United Nations?
Let's stop there for a moment, though, John. How explosive potentially is this? Or if you talk to the people inside the Beltway, is this just another day in the office of doing governmental work?
No, it's really not, because a decade after the fact, it's very hard to find people who still defend the invasion of Iraq. Now, former President Bush says in the long run he'll be vindicated, as Harry Truman was vindicated years after he left office in the realm of foreign policy. So yes, it is big. I would compare it to the embryonic reports in London that the intelligence Prime Minister Blair received were, and I quote, "sexed up," which led to an investigation by Parliament and caused the Prime Minister great turmoil in his twilight days.
There's also a secondary article there about George H.W. Bush, according to Rumsfeld, did Jeb a disservice with the biography. But we're going to get to that another day here, because this certainly seems like this entire issue with Rumsfeld is not going to go away. It is just beginning, and I know there's a lot of people who want a much further investigation. About 90 seconds I have left here. The March for Life on Friday was hit by Snowmageddon, and there were a lot of media outlets that came out and said, oh, nobody showed up for this. Your column says something entirely different. Tens of thousands of Americans did show up. They were determined to be here and speak their mind and make a statement regardless of Mother Nature.
Well, you can call it Snowmageddon, Snowzilla, or Jonas the Blizzard. It did not deter tens of thousands of marchers from places as far away as Florida and Missouri, and people of all faiths from coming. What struck me was the number of young people who were there. The marchers get progressively younger as time goes by, and these young people aren't afraid to speak up for life. And what was known as a Catholic thing when it was launched 43 years ago attracts increasing amount of evangelicals. So I have to say the March for Life is growing, and it's just very good that you bring this up, Ed, because the snowstorm just really brushed it away and took precedent over something that's been going on 43 years.
It's a shame, because it's a very important march to so many people, and the fact that they stayed and they were refusing to be deterred by the snow, I think, is a great story. I only got 20 seconds left, by the way, John. Do you have your hat handy? Because I understand that you have a special hat that is prepared for the snow. I happen to see
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And one more thing.
You got 15 seconds. I want to see that, man, because if you're walking around Washington, I want people to know where John Gizzi is. There you go.
Special kudos to Kelsey Grammer, famed as Dr. Fraser Crane, now the boss in his own TV series. He marched through the entire March for Life and posed for pictures with some of the other marchers.
Well put. And remember, if you're in Washington, D.C., now you know how to find John Gizzi. He's there. Read his insider notes and columns every single day at Newsmax.com. Make sure you're there. John, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks for joining us. Great hat. Janet Yellen, the Fed, the huge mistake they may have made. Next on The Hardline.